Greetings, this is Dean Carpenter, Program Scientist, of the Albemarle-Pamlico National Estuary Partnership, aka APNEP. Welcome to the August presentation of the APNEP Science and Technology webinar series, sponsored by APNEP's Science and Technical Advisory Committee, aka STAC. Today's presenter, Neale, is a research scientist in EPA's Office of Research and Development. She leads the EnviroAtlas, a web-based interactive tool that provides many geospatial data layers, tools, and other resources in an easy-to-use application. Annie has a background in landscape ecology and ecosystem services, had been with EPA since 1991. One of her primary research interests has been examining relationships between spatial patterns of landscape characteristics and ecological resources, ecosystem services, and human health outcomes. One of our goals with EnviroAtlas is to translate scientists into tools and data that can be readily understood and used by a broad audience. To encourage group exchanges, Annie has encouraged participants to ask questions as she moves through her presentation. Note that this presentation is being recorded for later access by STAC members and other interested parties who could not join us today. Recordings of previous webinars in this series can now be accessed by simply visiting the APNEP website. That's apnep.org, selecting the Resources tab on the homepage, then selecting For Scientists tab. Now I will hand the virtual mic to Annie so she may begin her presentation. Welcome, Annie.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dean. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you everybody for participating today. So I just realized that my bio sketch is like basically my first slide. So I'll try to move through a few slides fairly quickly, but then the majority of this will be a live demo. Please go ahead and interrupt me if you have questions. I can't see the screen, so just break in with your voices. And with that, I will get going. So Dean already pretty much said what EnviroAtlas is. It's an online resource, provides just a wealth of geospatial data, a number of easy-to-use tools, and other resources. They're really all related to the benefits that we get from ecosystems. Also includes data layers speaking to stressors, as well as connections to human health, as well as equity. So there's the majority of what we do is in building these data sets. But also a large part of that is making them available to the public. So we'll quickly look at the interactive mapping application, which is a data discovery tool, and very quickly this eco-health relationship browser. There's also some downloadable GIS toolboxes, which I'm just going to barely touch on, and some analytic and interpretive tools. So why did we go down this pathway? It was probably almost it was over 10 years ago. So we wanted nothing new here, really. We wanted to conduct research to produce data and tools linking nature, people, health, and the economy, all in EPA's mission. We wanted to publish that research in the science literature, but we wanted to take that a step further and make it not only available to other academics, but also to decision makers and decision influencers, as well as academics. So we wanted to integrate those products with other relevant data in an accessible application and website. So really, we were trying to reach this broad audience. When we talk about the benefits that we get from ecosystems, we're really talking about ecosystem services. And so we include data layers that speak to the natural resources providing the services, the benefits themselves, and the drivers of change. So all of our data layers are tagged with one or more ecosystem service benefit categories, so people can easily see all of the various linkages. And I'll show you how those are tagged when we get to the map. So also much of our data belongs somewhere in this eco-health paradigm as we think about it. So there are stressors that are kind of taking away or negatively impacting our health and well-being as humans. And then there's these amazing benefits that we get from nature that are really enhancing our quality of life and our physical and mental health. And so we can kind of categorize and think of these as some of these are health promotional, like maybe it encourages physical activity or engagement with nature, a sense of awe, or they can be hazard buffering, so like water pollutant mitigation, heat reduction, or they can just be health maintenance, so the provision of clean air, clean water, and the conditions to grow healthy food. So the EnviroAtlas contains data at basically for two different primary extents. The majority of the data layers are national in scope. There are many more data layers for the conterminous US versus what we kind of think of as OCONUS or outside CONUS. There's a few examples here of data layers. And then there's also a featured subnational category. We're moving away from the term community and moving towards subnational because we're starting to develop data for entire regions at the scale. And so national data are really built on a 30-meter grid cell based raster data. A lot of them are based on land cover, so using the national land cover as well as other data sets. And the community data or the subnational data are all built on 1 meter land cover data. And right now that covers the cities and towns where about 65 million people live. All of the data are peer reviewed. They all have standard metadata, and it's all completely open access. So some of the different types of data that are in EnviroAtlas at those different extents. So we have extremely fine detail data at the pixel level, so raster, or we're using image services to share those data. So a lot of those, or the majority of those, are either 30-meter or 1-meter pixels. There are a lot of polygon data in EnviroAtlas, and that can be lines or shapes. And so there's a couple of examples here. One of these is tree cover along roadways. Red is less tree cover, green is more tree cover. And then the second one along the bottom, or the third one along the bottom, is green space within a quarter of a square kilometer throughout a community. And then by and far, a large proportion of the data are summarized by some kind of geographic unit, which allows for people to do analysis with multiple units, national assessments in some cases, or regional assessments. And these right now, they're typically either summarized by a census block group or by a 12-digit level HUC, which you guys are probably all familiar with the HUC, the watershed hierarchy. 12 digits are kind of a medium in the middle range there, and each one is approximately 40 square miles. We recognized early on that providing the data and the tools was not nearly enough. So we have had a very large stakeholder engagement and outreach component of this. The EnviroAtlas contains a whole library of use cases, and putting a suite of data into a decision context. They're developed for one particular location, but they're transferable to anywhere in the US. We have developed these very standardized fact sheets for every data layer. And so it puts more in layman's terms, what am I looking at? Why is it important? Why should I care? How could I use this information? And in general terms, how was the data layer created? That's, of course, in addition to the more technical metadata. There's a number of tutorials, different formats, videos, written manuals, etc. And then there's also a couple of guides in using our data in particular decision frameworks. If any of you are no teachers or are teachers yourselves, there's also a number of education modules that are used widely in the classroom, and is something that I'm really proud of, because today's students are tomorrow's decision makers. So just maybe some of the key takeaways. It's pretty easy to use. It's currently used by all levels of government, nonprofit groups, researchers, universities, K through 12, and it's used to really inform a myriad of environmental, socioeconomic issues. And this can be by consultants for decision makers. It can be by influencers, I like to think about them. And then there's just a list of some of the different ways that the data were used. I think the last time I looked at the Google Analytics in May, there were about 20,000 individual users for the month. So we know that people are using it. We don't always know exactly how, which drives our management crazy. So I'm going to pause there for a brief moment and see whether you guys have any questions at this stage. And then while I'm doing that, while we're seeing if there's any questions, I'll transition and go over to a live demo. All right. So this is the main landing page for EnviroAtlas. Very easy, epa.gov/EnviroAtlas. From here, you can get to a section on just about EnviroAtlas. This is the how to use EnviroAtlas, all the tutorials, etc. A whole section on EnviroAtlas data and non-geospatial ways to access those data. Resources and publications, all the publications that are behind EnviroAtlas. I'm going to quickly go to this technical resources section. And yeah, I really need to turn my video off. Stop video. There we go. That will probably help. And there are, for those of you who are in the geospatial arena, work with geospatial data a lot, we create these tools as we are developing data layers, so people can download these tools and use them in their own applications. So maybe they don't like the maybe 12-digit HUCs are too large for them, and so they could do it at a much finer scale with these GIS toolboxes. And this one is Attila, which is probably the most popular one. There's a whole wiki for how to use it. I'm not going to go into detail because we definitely don't have time. I'm really just kind of touching on a lot of this, but I hope that I inspire enough interest that maybe folks will go and look at the website and pick out the things that they are interested in. I mentioned this EcoHealth relationship browser. This is such a fun tool to use, and it looks at all of the linkages between ecosystems, the benefits that they provide, and then the association with health outcomes. So, and these, you can click on this and get information about that linkage, and click on any of the bubbles, and that will expand and look at all of the health outcomes associated with recreation and physical activity, as well as the different implications for different ecosystems. This is built on an extensive literature review. I think there's upwards of 1,400 papers included in this. So it's a really great way of exploring those relationships, and it can help you even think about, okay, well, what maps do I want to look at in EnviroAtlas or in the interactive map? So going back to the landing page for just a moment, I'm going to open the interactive map. excuse me, I'm going to go to the page with the interactive map. And this is where you would go to access it. It's opens relatively quickly, gives you an option for a tour, for learning more information and going to some specific decision contexts, or just going to the website, just going to the map and exploring on your own time. I'm actually going to close this one because I have one that I have already, where'd it go? There it is, that I've already populated with a few data sets because I didn't want to have to think about going and finding them while I was talking in front of an audience, to be honest. So first, I'm going to go over a few of the features of the interactive mapping application. So all of the data are available in these 5 tabs over on the left-hand side. The first one is what we call, excuse me, losing my voice today. It's what we call featured collections. And these are suites of data layers that have been put together for a specific decision context, often via a stakeholder. Brownfields program in EPA asked us to put together one of these for brownfields. The Maryland Watershed Resources, the Watershed Resources Registry asked us to put one together for their WRR program. And so it's very easy. You can just add to the map everything that you want to see. You don't have to go looking for the data sets. I bring this up in case there's any interest down the road and perhaps building a featured collection for APNEP. The next icon on the top, this is where all of our EnviroAtlas, what I think of as EnviroAtlas data reside. Okay, why is that not working? Oh, here, because I've got this open. Okay. So you can search for data sets. It'll tell you how many you have found, and the data are all organized into these topics. There's a whole host of topics there, everything from protected lands to the National Air Toxics Assessment to impaired waters to built infrastructure to ecological boundaries and hydrologic features. So in general, the ones with the green background are we think of these as the ecosystem services indicators. The pink lot here are all related to stressors, so pollutants and their sources. The blue ones are about community infrastructure, and the gray ones are boundaries, both political as well as ecological, and NHD plus and other hydrologic features are also in there. The third tab, very important, is it brings up very, very easy access to maps from the Census Bureau, both from the decadal surveys and the American Community Survey, which is a rolling survey, and then they aggregate it up to 5-year increments. So a host of demographic available data are available through here. The next tab will bring up animated time series layers for climate scenarios. And so the user can select from one of the CMIP 5 emissions scenarios, and those are based on when do we peak with our GHG, carbon greenhouse gas emissions. And so you can pick your scenario, pick your variable, and whether you're interested in a particular season or annually, add that to the map, and it will go through 150 years of data. So that's pretty cool. This last one gives you access to the rest of the data world where people have developed geoservices. And so there's a few options here. You can search for data either on ArcGIS Online, on EPA's GeoPlatform, or some of the ones that our team has handpicked for people that we think or know that they would be interested in. And as you can see, I did a search a little earlier today for APNEP. And or if you know the URL of a particular web service that's been published out there, you can just pop it in here and it'll open it in the map. Or if you have a file on your desktop that you want to bring in, you can do that. So that's how you access all of the data. So let's just leave it right here. And then across the top inside the map, these are all of the various tools that are available. So there's some mapping tools where you can do bookmarks, draw and measure, bring up a smaller legend. That's great for making publication quality graphics. Or there's a compare my area tool where you can compare metrics associated with a watershed or a census plot group with all the rest in that in your state or in the county. This is what we call a Huck Navigator tool, and it lets you trace, so you can click anywhere. I'm going to go back and demo a few of these if we have time, but I want to get to the data. So it lets you click anywhere on the map. It will select the 12-digit Huck that you're in, and it will trace the pathway upstream to all of the area that is contributing to the water in that particular Huck. And then you can also aggregate these indicators upstream. So maybe you want to look at percent agriculture in the Huck of interest, but then you want to aggregate all of that for the upstream area. That will let you do that. An elevation profile is kind of no big deal, just maps the elevation between two different points. This is another way of selecting data. This is a powerful tool for just grabbing the data that you're interested in and showing that in the map. And then we're going to get back to the summarize my area tool because I'm definitely going to demo that. So we'll talk about that in a moment. So let's open this and let's go through. Maybe I'm going to pause. That was a lot, and I'm going to pause and I'm going to take a breath and I'm going to see if anybody has any questions so far.
Hi, this is Judd Kenworthy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Hi, Judd.
All right. Thanks for your generous time to give this presentation. And my question is how recent are the data? How frequently are they updated? And can we see this when we're browsing and drilling through these different data layers?
Yes, that is a great question, and some of them are more recent than others. So I think some of the oldest data are probably circa maybe 2012, and then it goes right to data being current. One of the things that we're working on is we're working on an update schedule. We're doing a lot of redesigning at the moment, actually, and part of that is coming up with a frequency update. What we try to do is every time a new national land cover data set comes out, we recalculate a lot of our metrics to be current with the latest national land cover data. So I think the most recent in here is probably 2019. I don't think we've updated with 2021 yet. And then the other thing that you asked about is whether you can tell that from the data, and the answer is yes. If you hover over a data layer over on in the table of contents, there'll be a short description that you can access. Actually, let me just go here for a quick moment. So when you open one of these topics, there's a little info button, and it shows you what you're going to be looking at. And then from here, you can also open the fact sheet, and the fact sheet will tell you the genesis of the data. And then if by any chance a fact sheet neglects to do that, then you can also go to the metadata and it will always be there.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you. That's helpful.
Sure, sure. And while we're over here, just in addition to the info button, so I mentioned the ecosystem benefit or ecosystem services benefit categories. So these are all for every data layer, you'll see a row of icons. Each one of those represents one of those categories, and they light up with a color if there's a clear association between that indicator and that category of service. And it's also a way that you can search for the data. So if you want to look for everything that's related to clean and plentiful water, that's really very, very easy to do. And if you hover over these, it gives you information about what everything is. There's two classes in this next. It's either N or C, and that indicates whether it's national in scope or subnational. We will be changing that to an S. And also how the data are presented. Is it summarized by some geography, block group, or 12-digit HUC? Is it vector data, lines or polygons, or is it a raster? So all of that information is available from this, what we think of as the data selection widget. All right, so go ahead. Was there a question, or was that just like a little bit of an echo, maybe? Okay, I'm gonna keep going. So I used this add data icon over here to add an outline. This is probably an older outline of what I kind of assumed to be the Albemarle Pamlico Basin. Maybe it's changed a little bit, but I thought maybe it would give us a good point of reference while we're looking around the map. I'm going to turn that off for a moment. Okay, so let's maybe start with a map. This is just a kind of a small selection of the many, many data layers that are available. So we'll just kind of go through these. So the first one is summarized by 12-digit HUC, and it's looking at the percent of forest or tree cover and woody wetlands in a 30-meter stream, within a 30-meter stream buffer for each 12-digit HUC. So, and then that Attila tool will allow you to recreate this metric using your own land cover data or using smaller geography. For any of these maps, it's true that if you click on a particular HUC, it will give you the value for that HUC. And obviously very important to have a legend on here. So blue is where you have more forest and woody wetland in the stream buffer, and yellow is where you have very, very little. So I'm going to turn that one off for the moment and keep going. So let's say this is a let's put this one on for a moment. Maybe we'll zoom in a little bit. So this is the 100-year floodplain map. This is something that's available for the US. It's 30-meter pixel based. And it's basically a binary yes, no. It's in the floodplains. Let's see, maybe we'll just zoom in a little bit more here. And so if you were interested in adding data layers to the floodplains, and again, these are just examples. For example, what about RCRA sites that are generating or storing large quantities of hazardous waste? I have no idea why I just lost that. Oh, there we go. Okay, there we go. And you can easily see, okay, well, do I have any hazardous waste sites? Or this could be Superfund or really any other kind of infrastructure that look like they are potentially going to be impacted by flooding. You can click on the item and get more information about that particular facility. And you can also go, and there's a link in there to that facility on the EPA website. So a nice way of combining data. So we'll turn that one off for a moment. And let me look for one other one here. So we're going to leave floodplain on, but I'm going to turn on this asymmetric allocation of population. This is a 2020 version. It's based on the 2020 decadal census. This is a data layer that will get updated with every decadal survey. So we know that people are not distributed evenly across census geography. Some of the census tracts and block groups are very large. Some of them in the center of communities are very small. And so what we've done is and there's papers behind all of this, but we have created a 30-meter raster of population. So it's giving you the number of people in every 30-meter grid cell. And so you can start looking at, okay, well, where do I have population? Where do I have people living that is in this 100-year floodplain? So just ways of layering data. And there's a lot of things that are available from these 3 little dots. You can change the transparency, you can move data layers around, you can get to the map description or the fact sheet, you can get to the web service. So every one of our data layers are published as a web service, which means that you can add our data layers to other mapping applications or to your desktop GIS very, 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 very easily. I need to move through some of these. So let's turn asymmetric off, and let's turn the floodplain off for the moment, and change tactics. Let's zoom back out again, and let's look at this. This is another data layer that we generated. This is potential wetland area. So these are areas that are either currently wetland or they have all of the biophysical characteristics that would lend themselves to becoming a wetland again. However, you kind of need to take into account, okay, but what's the current land use? So in addition to that, you can also look at the potentially restorable wetlands. So this is potential wetland area that is currently classified as agriculture. And let me just turn on the legend there. So it gives a suitability ranking score. We just published a paper in Science of the Total Environment, and we have revamped these methods. This is a 30-meter product, so there's a data point for every 30-meter grid cell. We have added more variables. We've improved the model, but we've also downscaled this further. So the next iteration of this will be a 10-meter product. The paper has been published, and so we're just going through the process of uploading the data to the EnviroAtlas. And that's something I'm pretty excited about. It's been a really useful data layer in the restoration arena. Let's see, what else did I put in here? Ah, yes, I know. Let's go here. So this is, let's maybe zoom in somewhere, anywhere. This is a connectivity map. It's been done for CONUS. This is one of the ones that we try to keep current with the national land cover data. And let's close a few of these, get some space. And the areas, whoops, oh dear, what have I done? There we go. These are run, oh dear. Oh, I may have just tagged, there we go. Okay, good, cleared it. So this is a connectivity, and in this case, we've run it multiple ways, and they're available through the table of contents. But in this particular one, we have, we've used a 30-meter edge to define an edge. We've also done it for 90 meters, and then we treat water differently. So for species that cross water, we have one that includes water in the foreground, and this one it does not. And so this is connectivity of natural land cover types, so forest, shrubland, etc. And there's definitions here, but the biggest ones are really core and bridge. And bridge is the, so perhaps that's very important if you have a bridge that is connecting two core areas of natural land cover. There's been a recent flurry of, I guess, White House interest in connectivity, which is something that I'm really super excited to see. So I also looked around because I know that there's high resolution land cover data that's in the process of being developed for the Albemarle Pamlico Basin. And so I went to NOAA and just grabbed that. And let's see if I can find that in my little menu here. You guys are probably well aware of this, but we'll put these on the map as well, just to show you how easy it is to bring in data via this web service technology from other resources. So the red is impervious surface, and the green is tree cover, and we'll just like really zoom in here to an area because the level of detail is really incredible. And so for our community component, or the subnational component, this is the base data from which we are deriving all of our metrics. I think the only community within APNEP is Durham that has the really high resolution land cover, along with all of the metrics that we have developed. So I just wanted to show you a quick example of bringing data in from another application. And again, that's through this little plus add data tab. Very, it's like 3 clicks. Very easy. So I think I'm going to pause there again and see if there are any questions about, like, well, that's great, but I'm really interested in this. Do you have data for this? Ah, yes, I'm not quite done. Let's turn these off. There's a couple more.
Hello, this is Bo with Chowan University. I have a quick question for you about adding
Yeah,
data.
sure. Yep.
So let's say we have a data set we collected in the field and wanted to add it to see how it lines up with some of the data sets you have. Does it have to be in some kind of format, just a regular GIS, ArcGIS format?
Yeah, you can. Yes, just a regular ArcGIS format. So if you were adding it from your desktop, say for example, these are all the formats that it will accept. So shapefile, KML, GeoJSON. GeoJSONs have become more and more popular, but it's very easy to add it from here.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. You're very welcome. All right, we're gonna zoom. We're gonna zoom back out again. Let's see. There we go. And I wanted to show you a couple of the demographic layers. So we find it's really great to overlay. The people in the environment are so important, and when you're talking about ecosystem services, they're the beneficiaries, and sometimes there's equity in distribution, but a lot of times there are not. So first of all, I just wanted to bring up just a very straightforward. This is looking at median household income, and let's see if we can get the legend to come up there. Looks like it's being, why is that? All right, we'll see if we can get the legend to come up here instead. Yeah, there we go. So there's the legend for median household income. Don't know why it was being kludgy over here. And then the user has the ability to either look at, in this case, it's a graduated color for each census. Oh, and that's scale dependent too. So it goes out to county. As you zoom in, it goes down to block group. And then if you're overlaying it perhaps on another census, I don't know why that's not working with you can also get graduated symbols. And in this case, this is looking at the percent people of color within each census geography. So that's the census data. And now I'm going to abandon just looking at data layers for a moment. And I'm going to quickly go back to the summarize my area tool, because this is going to be very important to future iterations of EnviroAtlas. This one we kind of think of this as a prototype. So say you're interested in land cover change for a particular geography. You can pick your NLCD year and look at the change between those 2 years. You can pick your summer unit, so congressional district, just for fun, county, subbasins, or you can draw a point. So maybe we'll do that. Let's go to Durham for a moment. You can draw a point, and then you can draw a buffer distance around that. Some overlay things going on here. Here, let's just move this around a little bit. There we go. And let's say 2 kilometers. And we can calculate, and it will very, very quickly bring up the land cover change, or you can just look at just straight land cover as well for that particular area that you've chosen. And you get the results as a graph showing the land cover change for that particular area, as well as a table showing the specific values. So this, we feel like this is the future of where we're going, and the idea is to add many more metrics to this now that we know that we can do it, to also add the capability of being able to do this using the high resolution land cover data, but then take it a step further and look at combinations. So maybe you want to look at how many people live in floodplains for a very particular geography. This tool will allow you to do that. So with that, I think maybe that's enough. And I'm gonna pause and see if there's any other questions.
Hey, this is Dan
Yeah,
Obenauer. Thanks for a great presentation. I'm really excited to use this more in the future. Um,
awesome.
I may have missed it, but I see there's a data download option in the top right,
Yep.
and I'm wondering, like, are all the data layers available for download, or is it just certain ones? And then second part of the question is, Are if you download them, is it for the entire US or are there ways to download, to just cut out the portions that you're interested in?
Yeah, those are great questions. So every single data layer that is ours is available for download. Some of these, which are transparent to the user, like for example, all of the sites reporting to EPA, these are coming in from another EPA data source, and we direct users to go to the source data for that. And the rest of the question, let's go back to the EnviroAtlas website for just a moment. And if you go down to there's a whole download section. There's a form, don't tell anyone, but you don't really have to fill that out. Oh, maybe you do now. Oh my. Well, or it's just taking time. In the interest of time, you can select specific geographies for the download. And and then of course everything's also available as a service. So you can bring, if you don't want to download tons of data, then you can also just use the web services in your applications. I should mention this save session, which is what I did with my group of data layers there. You can, if you say you've spent an hour or so and you've added a bunch of maps to the viewer here, and you're done for the day, or you want to sell it to your colleague who lives in, send it to a colleague who lives somewhere else, you can save that session, and it saves that as a JSON file, and you can email that to somebody else. And when they open the application, it will open with those same, with that, it will restore that session for them.
Hi,
Hello.
this is oh, go ahead.
Hello, Annie. This is Paul Engermeyer. Thank you. This is
Hi, Paul.
amazing. I just have a question looking forward. I mean, there's an awful lot of stuff here, and does your group staff a help desk that if someone wanted to start muddling through this, there
We
would be
do.
someone to help with
Yep.
it?
Yep, we absolutely do, and this has been built for people to use. So if we don't provide the help for them to use it, then it was kind of a pointless exercise. So there's this contact us, and it goes into a database. We get questions every single day, and we have a policy where we try to respond within 24 hours to all of those. We also have, let me go back to my slides for just a moment. We also have an EnviroAtlas at epa.gov email address, and that goes to me, but it also goes to a large number of my teammates. And yeah, we really enjoy providing help to people to help them use it.
All right, great. Thank you.
Hi, Annie. This is Judd Kenworthy again.
Yeah, hi.
Do you provide like an alert service, say via email, for example, if you were to announce that you added or updated a data set, or do we have to either go browsing or maybe contact the help desk?
Yeah, that is a very, very good question. And I think that's something that maybe we have not done very well. And We have a website. Oh, actually, we did post it. So there's this list of recent changes and updates on it's a project status. And so when something gets updated, the idea is that it gets added to this log. It's fairly
Okay.
new. It's something that we just started recently, and but I feel like it's something that's super important for the big things like for example, updating our potential wetland map is huge. It's 10 metadata. It's nationwide, and it's pretty cool. So things that are like big ticket items, we add to an update bulletin that we send out to let people know when there's new cool stuff. And so if folks are interested in getting on that list, please by all means do.
Thank you.
I think our last one was in February, and I anticipate we'll be sending another one out as soon as we get the potential wetland data fully added to the website. Yeah, this was really fun. I love the questions.
I I have one more question. This is Dan. It's
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
technical
Hi,
question.
Dan.
I was actually like playing with the discharges, the permitted waste discharges, and I got
Yep.
them to show up on the map, of course, but I can't seem to select them because I have other data layers, and it's selecting, I guess, whichever one is on top. And I was playing with some different stuff, but I couldn't figure out how to, just select from that layer. Is there a way to do that? Um,
Yeah, you should in the select tool right here, you should be able to tell it that which I don't have anything in here right now, but there should be the option there for just selecting which layer you want to select from. Is that is that kind of the question? And then also in the active layer list over here, you can move things around and put, so so the one that you're interested in at the moment, you can put that on the top. But I might, oh, and then another thing that I didn't mention is you can also open the attribute table and it'll open up at the bottom. Is that working for you, Dan?
it isn't. I actually tried some of that stuff, but I may just be missing something obvious. But
No,
yeah, I,
why?
I still haven't
Yeah.
been able to select a
Okay.
discharge. And I did try those two different lists in the selection and the active layer, but I
Okay.
don't know. Just
No, I maybe reach out to me,
okay.
and I'm gonna, when I after we get off, I'll take a look at it. And you said it was the discharges layers that you were looking at that weren't working correctly?
Yeah, permitted water
Okay.
dischargers, major.
All
I
right.
can't seem to select them, but yeah, I'll send
Uh
you an email just in case you want to follow
yeah,
up.
yeah, no, that would be great. That would be great. And I'll see if I can figure out the problem. So part of some of the, yeah, when people are struggling, oh, something isn't working correctly, we sure want to know about it and get it fixed. And so that feedback is really important for that too. Sometimes there's updates that are made in the software, and unless somebody notices it, we don't always know that something has gotten broken. So it's always good to hear from people if something isn't working properly.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna turn my video back on for a moment because I feel like we're nearing the hour here.
So do we have any other questions for Annie?
Yeah, Dean, this is Wilson. I have my hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, Annie. This is Wilson Laney from NC State, but also on a bunch of APNEP stuff. Thanks for the presentation. That was great. I had a question. I haven't played around with it yet. I would like to play around with it, but my question is, I noticed you have a data layer for listed species on there, and I was wondering if using that layer that I could create a map product that would show the location of those species and then the associated land cover types that they were occupying. Is that something that would be fairly easy to crank out?
So those species layers, I didn't even touch on all of the biodiversity layers. There's so many in there. Some of them are based on modeled habitat. So it's based on habitat suitability, and then we put together suites of species that have had societal value attached to them in some way. So whether that's birds of the greatest conservation need or threatened and endangered species. So there's a whole suite of those data layers. And then there's also a whole suite of data layers that are based on the state heritage programs that are then rolled up into a national data layer by NatureServe. We partnered with them. I will say that the reason I didn't highlight those particular data layers, or part of the reason, is that those are some of the older ones in the data set. There's also several related to aquatic species, by the way, but they're dated. And that's one of the areas we're working with USGS, and we hope to get those updated. They're also summarized by 12-digit HUC. So they're not like the individual species habitat, but it would be very, very easy to bring in the UN. In fact, this would actually make a nice little use case, is to bring in the USGS GAP individual species habitat models, and then you could very easily overlay that with the land cover.
Okay, thank you. One more question related to that, sort of, is that the Atlantic Coastal Fish Habitat Partnership and the Southeast Aquatic Resources Partnership have both created data layers relative to aquatic connectivity. And I was wondering if you had collaborated with them to pull those data layers into the system yet.
No, we haven't. So our operating MO is that the data that we bring into EnviroAtlas are either the permanent, all the data sets that are hardwired in there, they're either available for CONUS or they are available as a suite of data for a subnational area. We have not ever like incorporated this data set from the Southeast and this other data set from the Northwest. There is a lot of interest. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I would like to go look at that. There's, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of, I guess, White House interest and cross-agency conversations happening, both for terrestrial as well as aquatic connectivity. So no, the short answer is that we haven't worked with them, but I'm really interested in their methods and whether they would potentially apply nationwide.
Okay, I don't know about I suspect there probably are data sets that would cover the entire nation, but between SARP and the ACFIP, they have produced, collaborating with the Nature Conservancy, they have produced a pretty much seamless data layer that covers all of the Atlantic coastal river basins from Florida to Maine. So that one data set is fairly large and pretty consistent. They use the same methodology for that. So I don't know about the national data set. I suspect that those are probably available through the other fish habitat partnerships which exist. I guess there's 22 of those nationally now.
Yes, yeah,
So
there's,
you could, that might be a question you would want to pose to the National Fish Habitat folks.
okay, I will do that. Yes, part of this effort I know is in removing fish barriers, which is really cool. Really cool to see that happening. We have quite a few. You said you're from state, right? NC State?
Yeah, that's my primary affiliation. I'm an adjunct professor in the Department of Applied Ecology.
Wonderful. We get a lot. So a lot of the people who work on this project are amazing recent graduates. Many of them come from NC State as well as UNC and Duke. So we are blessed to have such great universities nearby from which to draw great talent.
Okay, so we're a little bit over the hour, so I guess we should wrap it up. I want to thank Annie very much for participating in our partnership science and technology webinar series. It was great. Thank you very much. And thanks to staff members who posed great questions and had a great exchange here. Again, if you want to revisit it, we'll have this hopefully posted soon. But for that, I'll just wish you all a happy rest of the day and have a great weekend.
Thank you so much, Dean. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you all for your great questions and your interest, and feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dean, and thanks, Annie.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.